Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Perfect Time Multisport. Today I got my good friend and amazing cyclist with us today, Jules.
Hi, everyone.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Feeling good?
Yeah, I'm excited. A little bit.
All right.
But thank you for having me. I'm just real excited to get this.
No problem. Thanks again for joining, especially since I know you're about to be moving to Cali soon.
Yes.
How's that going?
It's a very stressful process, trying to move across country. There's a lot of things that you need to check off the list before doing so. But I think I'm doing good time. And
especially like you're doing this during the pandemic, right? So you had that extra layer of stress.
Exactly, and I've been having to pay attention to the coronavirus, like the counts and everything in the Maryland area and in California.
Right.
And it's like when we take steps forward in Maryland, they're taking steps backwards in California, and it's like,
and like you're about to get thrown into the fire.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So, well, for folks that don't know Jules, I actually met Jules a few years ago when I moved down here to DC. And if you don't know, we're here in DC, and she actually goes by DMV Jules. I'm actually really interested to hear a little bit more about that story. So I know you have this really amazing relationship with cycling. So, and also as an athlete, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you got introduced to cycling, how you got introduced to athletics? Let's start with there.
I think at childhood, my mom kind of tried to put me in everything just to see what stuck.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, it was really nothing. I'm not an athletic person, so I grew up in adulthood just like athleticism is just not my thing.
Yeah.
I was more so like the musical person. I was in the drum line in middle school and high school.
Okay.
But I did do a little bit of softball in high school.
Okay.
So that was like kind of fun, but I wasn't amazing at it.
That's cool. What position did you play?
Oh goodness, I think I was in the outfield somewhere.
Okay. All right. So you have to be athletic to play in the outfield. In a sense.
A little bit, yeah. I really was good at batting. That was like my major thing. But I kind of, I guess I had struggles with catching, and so I wanted to be in the outfield so that I can learn how to catch.
Yeah.
And also you have to run a lot while you're out there. And I was like, that would be a good thing for me to try to get some exercise.
All right. So you're going through high school, and obviously you didn't really do you weren't participating in any athletics in middle school though. But now let's transition. Let's move forward a little bit to college. How did you do anything in college?
Yeah, so in college, I actually got introduced to cycling through a 1-credit course at my city college.
Yeah.
I was really just trying to maintain my full-time status, and I think I was at 11 credits, and I needed 12. So what little Mickey Mouse course can I find? And I found the cycling course, and I was like, that sounds awesome.
All right.
So yes, I signed up for that course, and they actually issued us legit road bikes.
Oh wow. Where was the course at?
It was in Pasadena, California at Pasadena City College. Okay, yeah. And, I don't even know if we actually met in a classroom. I think everything, it was just here's your bike. And I'll just email everybody where to meet on Saturdays.
Oh, wow.
And we'll just go ride together.
So you basically paid for this class to get the bike, and you had this community of cyclists that you got introduced to the sport with.
Yeah.
All right, that's dope. So how long was it that full 12, 16-week semester? Tell us.
Yes, I think it worked on a quarter system, but yes, I was doing it for a few months. But then shortly after that, I moved here, and I had to give the bike back.
What? They took the bike back?
Yeah, you don't pay for the bike. You pay for the course. They loan you the bike for the semester. Because this was a $900 bike, and this is not some money that college students have. So they kind of loaned it to you to use however you like to during, the semester. But after that, I was kind of without a bike again. So
did you have a professor or?
Yes, a professor. He was a cyclist, and he was actually a lot older. He was like in his 70s, which was really amazing because he was just like crushing everybody. Like he really does this, and I think he kind of was an elite cyclist when he was younger. Mm-hmm. So it was something that he probably brought that to the curriculum. And got some interest in it, so.
That's dope. I need to figure out how I can get that job somewhere.
Exactly, I would love to do that.
Right. So I know it wasn't like love at first ride. So can you tell us a little bit about when you said, hey, this is a sport, this is an activity that I love?
I mean, kind of when you get back on a bike, it just reminds you of childhood, right? It's very nostalgic. And so you find that you're having a lot of fun, and, I would kind of stay with it and do a little bit every day, get a little stronger. And, it was something that wasn't really hard on my lungs because I'm asthmatic. So, that's why running in sports was really kind of difficult for me. But cycling kind of stuck with me because it wasn't so hard on the lungs. So, that was like something that would keep me fit. I also really enjoyed it. It was really fun.
Yeah.
But when I got serious about it, I would say is when I moved out to the DMV.
Okay. When did you come here?
I moved here in 2008.
Okay.
But it wasn't until I graduated from college and got my first job that I was able to actually buy my own bike.
Right.
And I thought I was doing something with my little warehouse bike. It really wasn't. It was a piece of crap, but it was something to get me started until I could actually meet some people who can say, that's not a good bike, let's try to get you something a little better now that you're getting more serious about it, right?
That's real.
So, I would just kind of, ride and then hang up my, bike clothes when it started getting like 55 and lower. Because I just didn't know anything about the clothes and the things that were available to people to ride during the winter. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I got introduced to some bike messengers that really kind of opened my eyes up, like, wow, these people do this year round, like even when it's snowing outside. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I was like, well, that could be me too. I should, so.
I love it. I'm just sitting here like, oh, tell me more. I'm like, that is not my car, but cool.
I'm sorry.
I loved it. So I know you transitioned and you still have this love for cycling, but again, as I mentioned, I met Jules through the triathlon community. So tell us about when you learned about the sport of triathlon and then your journey through triathlon to this day.
Sure. So once I started being real, super cyclist and wanted to ride all the time, I was just in this group chat on GroupMe, and I was just like really trying to find people to ride with. And this was a big community of young Black professionals, but unfortunately, there are not a lot of African American people in cycling or just even riding like at leisure.
Right.
So there were only a few people who would ride like that. But there was someone that was actually in the district triathlon group who was also in that group chat and said, hey, I'm in this triathlon group and they go riding all the time. I think this would be a great group for you guys to ride with. Mm-hmm. So he added me to the group, and
back in the group days.
The rest was history. I'm like, what's up? I'm Jules, and I'm here to ride bikes.
So you just came to ride bikes. You weren't really about the triathlon life.
I was not about the triathlon life. I was talking bikes, and everybody's like, okay, but when are you coming out for a swim? When are you gonna come run with us? And it felt like a lot of pressure at the time. I was really nervous. Just thinking about triathlons and thinking, is that something that's attainable for me? People seem like really fit, and I consider myself getting a lot stronger in cycling, so I feel comfortable in that area. But swimming, I haven't done that seriously at all, and like I told you, asthmatic, so really didn't like running either.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't until I started learning about the different distances and learning that they do have like sprint triathlons, which are, if you guys watching don't know, they come in various distances, but they can be like, maybe a 200 or 300 meter swim in a pool. That was my first triathlon inside of a pool. So that kind of gave me a lot of comfort over, okay, I'm not going to drown. I can grab the wall if I need to. I can stop and stand up if I need to. And then the bike portion could be anywhere between like 10, 15 miles, and then the run would be a 5K.
Yeah.
So I'm just learning about a short distance and then kind of inching my way into triathlon that way. I said, okay, that seems a lot more attainable than an Ironman, because someone who doesn't know about, multi-sports thinks that all they think is Ironman.
Right.
Even when you say Olympic distance, they just automatically think Ironman. Wow, you're biking 100 miles, you're swimming. They don't really know about the different distances. So it was, getting in that group and learning about that, that made me say, okay, that doesn't seem so hard. I think that's something that I'd like to try.
I love it. You like to try the try. I love
Come
it.
try with us.
And for folks for folks watching this live, if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to stay engaged and just let us know what questions you have, and we'll make sure we get those asked throughout the duration of this conversation. But going back to the triathlon life, what was your first race? You said it was the pool race.
I think it was Smithfield in Smithfield, Virginia.
Yeah.
And that one, yes, it started in a pool. And I think they line you up by your ability. So that, someone who's a beginner, a novice like myself, wouldn't get passed up by someone who's just like, zooming past me. So I think, as you're training for it, you kind of keep track of how long it may take you to do 100 meters or so, and then you kind of like do the math and figure out where you should probably fall in line.
Yeah.
Smithfield, Virginia, there was a pool. I think it was maybe like a 300-meter swim or so.
Okay.
12-mile bike and a 5K run, I'd say.
So you killed that bike, I'm sure, huh?
I did. I smoked everybody. But then I got dusted on the run. Like, there was like an 80-year-old guy just passing me, and Colin was like, "Are you gonna let this guy do that to you?" And I was like, "Absolutely, yes."
Right. I love that. So thinking about, again, you didn't even know about triathlons really, except for this Ironman thing. So can you talk a little bit about how that community really showed up for you?
Yes, everyone was really encouraging. That was a big thing, when I wasn't believing in myself and feeling like, I can't do this, I'm really afraid.
Yeah.
They were really there, like, we can work with you. It wasn't like I felt pressured to be able to do the workouts to their full extent. Like, let's say if the coach would say, we're going to do this swim workout today.
Yeah.
And we have a certain amount of time in the pool. If I can't finish it, I didn't feel like a failure.
Right.
Because I was getting stronger every week, and people would confirm that by saying, yeah, we see that you're, I see you out there, you're working, you're getting a little stronger, you're getting faster, your stroke is better, you're breathing this and that.
Yeah.
So just a really encouraging community, and even just people outside of district triathlon. Like, I remember in one of my races, I dropped my water bottle, and I was in mile 1 of like 15, and it was hot out there. I just got done swimming like a half mile in open water, and I was just like dying.
Yeah.
And I think Daniela was actually behind me in that race, and she, I'm like, I need water. She was like, hold on, Jules, I'm gonna come to you. But I was like, it was like, I'm also racing, and she was like not catching me. And there was another guy who was like, I got an extra water bottle. I got some Gatorade. Like, here you go. And he just like gave me his bottle. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there are people who are just like that. And even in the run, when you're like dying, you're just like, I just have to finish. I just have to finish. And there will be people like, running past you or, coming back the opposite way, and they're just cheering for you. They're clapping, they're saying, you got it. And, it's just a really uplifting, supportive community. Nobody is just like, you suck, or like, there was never any like negative talk. So
I love that. So also keeping on along the lines of doing these like really amazing things, stepping out of your comfort zone, transitioning back to what your love is of cycling. I knew you did this really amazing thing not too long ago, last year, right? All right, so can you tell us, for folks that don't know, can you tell us about what it was?
So yes, me and a friend of mine did a bike tour from San Francisco to Los Angeles.
All right.
It was about 500 miles over the course of, I think it was 10 biking days with 11 days total.
Okay.
And it was about 26,000 feet of climbing. So,
Wow.
yes, we rode the coast of California. So along the beaches the whole way. But you've got a lot of, winds, cold air. That was something that I wasn't even ready for, being from California. I was, like, oh, it should be nice weather because we did it in July.
Mm-hmm.
And on day 2, I'm calling my mom like, I could use some jacket money because I was not anticipating it being this cold.
Yeah.
So.
But luckily you were along the coast, so you had a bunch of hotels and all to stay in, right?
Did they have hotels?
Did you stay at them?
We didn't stay in any hotels. So
really?
we camped the entire way.
Wow.
So we carried everything on our bikes. It was fully self-supported.
Yeah.
And I think we only stayed in a bed one night, and that was the first night we found a hostel. And I think I've always wanted to stay at a hostel, just very curious about it. And it really did not live up to the hype.
What is the hype of a hostel though? I didn't know that was a hype.
When I picture hostels, I just think of a whole bunch of different people from different walks of life coming together. And, I think of Europe and all those other countries where they're more common versus California. But I was thinking, as a woman and traveling abroad, I don't feel as safe, but maybe in the States, I could just kind of get my feet wet in a hostel.
Yeah.
And there are some strange people in any hostel, okay?
Alright, so it didn't live up to the hype.
It did not.
And in the rest of the next 10 nights, because you said you stayed in the hotel the first night?
Right? The hostel, yeah.
I'm sorry, the hostel. So what was that like? You had to carry your stuff. Tell us about that.
So every day you do get stronger, so it gets a little bit easier, but I would say the part that I least liked about touring is just having to set up camp and then pack your things back up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it takes so much time to do. I'd say maybe 2 hours packing and then 2 hours unpacking. It was just and we would be racing the clock trying to get to camp before the sun went down, so that we could set up camp before, so we wouldn't run out of daylight. Yeah. So we would be if we had dinner, our dinner was always getting cold because we had to get that stuff packed. Yeah. So that was my least favorite part, but carrying everything on you, I think it gives you that comfort of knowing that you have everything that you need. Right. So that's the good part about it. But I only recall one time really where I just felt like I really wish I had an ejecto button where I could just drop all this stuff off of my bike, because we found one hill that was really short and steep. Yeah. And even though I was in my lowest gear, I mean, I was trying to get up that hill. Right. And I was like, this is about the perfect time for an ejecto button. Right. Perfect time. That was exactly. But that was the one and only time that I had to use my inhaler on the trip. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, it was that little. It wasn't even the mountains of California. It was Jefferson Street. It was so random. Just so annoying, right? Yeah.
So you say you did this in July. So that means you have a bit longer days, right? Was that originally the plan, or did you have to shift plans?
So we had this book. It's called Cycling the Pacific Coast, and they gave you the ideal months to go do this tour. And I think they were saying September. And I think we were just trying to give ourselves, considering daylight, but also considering will it be warm enough? I think it also gave us more time to prepare, because originally I think we wanted to do it in April. Okay. But we needed to get more supplies. I mean, it became a really costly thing that we weren't anticipating. So I think just giving ourselves that extra time to plan and to save up funds for the tour.
That's real. Okay, I like that. So what was in preparation, like what was that research and the logistics behind the whole project?
Wow, it was so much. So just getting introduced to different groups, even on Facebook. Like I can't even remember how I was introduced to this, but I found this one group of like, women bikepackers who were doing kind of like a newbie overnighter on the C&O Canal. Oh. And so I found that I signed up and I sent it to my tour mate and said, hey, I think that we should do this. This will be a great time for us to just kind of test out our gear, because we had already gotten our tents and a few other things. And I was like, okay, now that we have a few of our essentials, let's go and test them out.
Right.
So we did that in April. And we learned some things about our gear, that some things were not right. We had to take back. We needed to maybe acquire some more things. We just looked at what other people had and saw how they had their bikes set up. Right. So we learned about that and just how to pack more efficiently. We saw some people who overdid it and some people who had a lot less than us. And we're like, okay, so we kind of were able to scale back on some things that we didn't need, and then get some things that we didn't think of. Yeah. REI website actually has a bike packing list. Oh. So you can go on there and see and check off, some very essential things that you may not have even thought to have.
So what was like the one thing that you didn't have packed, and once you saw that list, you were like, oh man, how did I miss this? What was like that one thing? Or a few things.
Okay, so for instance, when we went on that little trip, there was this girl who had this 3-liter like hydro pack of water, because you never can have enough water. And even though I thought I did, because I think I had like 2 water bottles and then an extra one in the back, it was not enough. Because you're needing water for to wash your hands, for food and all that. Because a lot of these campsites are primitive. Yeah. So you have like what you bring, and then there may be like porta potty and a well, but so that and a water filter. I got that. I had the wrong sleeping pad, and my tour mate did not even have a sleeping pad, so that was something that we had to go and change.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to ride 10 days, you want to be comfortable, right? Yeah.
And then I would say just like certain tools, like for instance a derailleur hanger. And then I think I had some brake pads, because the pads that are used on my bike for the disc brake, they're not something that's usually readily available at a shop if you go in there. So I was like, I think it would be wise for me to have some brake pads. Yeah. So that once I find a shop, they can just throw them on, as opposed to having to order them. Because what we couldn't do, we didn't have time to wait for someone to service our bike. So we tried to have everything that we may need, so that they can just go on ahead and fix it right there.
I love it. So thinking of, you talked a little bit about, you keep mentioning your tour mate. So I'm really curious, how did you get anybody, especially Cali, to like go ahead and do this with you?
I think it's the way you present it, and then just knowing that. I think the book also is very helpful, just by saying it spells it out for you. It tells you the turn-by-turn directions. While they were outdated, it gave you the turn-by-turn directions. They had all the campsites recommended. They told you what to expect along the way, any little cool stops that you might want to do, any side trips or anything like that. I think knowing the mileage that you were going to do and the amount of climbing that you're going to do every day was really helpful. And I think it was also because it was around her birthday. We stopped the tour like the day before her birthday. Okay. So I think that was just something adventurous that she thought would be a cool thing to do for her birthday. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think
that makes sense. That makes sense. So you said you're preparing for the elevation gain, and I know although we can find some hills in DC, they just aren't comparable to something that you're going to see in the mountains in California, right? So how would you prepare for that, being here in the DMV area?
I would recommend Skyline over in Shenandoah Valley. I would say that the climbing was almost identical to that kind of environment. Yeah. Or, we also did Rock Creek Hill Ride with city bikes, and what I would do was just load up my bike with all of my equipment and everything as if I was going to be touring,
Right.
and I would train on those hills. And even though those hills were not like California in the sense that they weren't like really, really long, like going on for miles, they were hard enough to get my legs strong. And so, when we got to California, we were expecting some really steep stuff, like the things that we find in Rock Creek Hill Ride, and that wasn't the case. So we found ourselves really prepared just doing that, and because it's local, it was a lot easier to get to. So just doing that kind of like during the week or times when you don't have, a car or whatever to get out to like Shenandoah. But I would say like look for some hills, maybe even in Poolsville. And then the ride that you recently introduced me to, kind of just riding on MacArthur. That would be a good way to kind of train as well.
All right, I like it. So I can only imagine, not only the elevation gains and the camping, everything that comes with doing this tour, you're going to have to overcome some challenges. So can you talk about how you prepare for those? Was it really primarily through the book, or did you have to build this community to help you prepare for the challenges you were going to see?
It was both. I definitely reached out to people who have done this before, just asking general questions, and then just kind of trying to see what is around everywhere that we were going to be. For instance, like I thought the most key thing to know was like where are the hospitals, where are the bike shops, where's lodging if we really need it, things like that. So even though the book kind of tells you where the camps are and little things like that, I kind of had to do that kind of research on my own, just pricing a lot of things, and also just things that you have to learn as you go.
Yeah, that's real. So I'm glad you said that, because transitioning now from preparing for it in advance to now learning as you go, what are some things you had to overcome as you're on this tour?
I haven't overcome it, but I faced it.
Okay.
I have a fear of heights, a great fear of heights, and being on the side of those cliffs, was really, really challenging for me. Specifically in the Big Sur area. Like the first 4 days of the tour was kind of like easy sailing, and then like the next 2 days was really, really rough on me because we were on the side of the mountain, and you have winds just kind of blowing you from every which way, and you already have like 40 to 50 pounds of stuff on your bike, and it's already hard to just keep yourself level. And then to be having this, and then the mountain was off camber, so you're riding like this, and you're going down fast, right? So it's like you have a wind blowing you from all sides, and I was just like, every time there was a little overlook, little pass off, I would pull over and just be like, Colin was like, if you need a minute, take your time. She thought that part was fun because she hated the climbing, and I was like, I will climb to heaven if that meant that I don't have to come down, But
I definitely understand that. And as I always remind everybody watching, listening, if you have any questions, we definitely want to keep this conversation really engaging. If you are listening to this at a later date and you're like, what is he talking about? As I always say, you should have been here. So we do have a first question in the chat. So Daniela, can you please let us know what that is?
Yes, FM Triphase wants to know what was the steepest climb on the Cali tour?
That's a good question.
I don't know if this was necessarily the steepest, but we did have 1,000-foot climb. And when we were done with that, we looked around and realized that we were above the clouds. So that was, it was really, really long and steady. We were climbing for miles and miles. And when we got to the top, the view was just outstanding. It was like, it was amazing.
So it was worth it? All right, I love it. Any other questions before we go on? Thank you. So Well, I know you had a lot of people here cheering for you, including myself, right? And especially Daniela, and people in California. There has to be a lot of self-motivation that comes in doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us, what kept you motivated? What was your mantra through this whole process?
I think it was the naysayers. There were some people kind of in the beginning who were kind of doubtful, just talking crap about the quality of my bike, or how I wasn't like when I was first starting out. People who are really feeling themselves, and they think that they're kind of leading you as their prodigy, and like I think the person who took me on my very first long ride of 40 miles, and I was just like dying at the end, and they were kind of like, that was so easy, you know what I mean, and just kind of and people kind of like mocking me, like, you're not gonna learn, you're not gonna learn how to climb hills just like riding Georgia Avenue, and you talk about such and such, hill, like it's just a big mountain, and just kind of saying things like that. And I was like, well, I'm gonna show you, so that was a big motivator, but also just having like so many people that were supportive, and they thought that it was like really an amazing feat, and they, we're like, we can't wait to follow along and kind of sharing that experience with you. So I would say kind of both sides, the people who are really rooting for you and the ones who aren't.
Yeah, I love that. Daniela, it looks like you have a question. She's getting emotional behind this camera, since you guys can't see.
So I think one of the things I'm curious about is how you use that energy to propel you into harder and harder training rides as you prepared for the tour.
Sure. I mean, I think once you start getting stronger, you want to keep challenging yourself, because we knew that we had really big, long hills to ride. And so I would increase my distance every week whenever I would pack up my bike, doing that and just trying to find more challenging rides, just because I wanted to be over-prepared rather than under. I didn't want to get out there and just, flop. At that point, it was like failure is not an option. I did not want to feel that way. I didn't want to let anyone down, let alone myself. So, it's when you see your body and feel your body getting stronger, that's motivation enough to be like, I gotta keep going. I gotta get stronger. I gotta get better at this. And other than that one little, Jefferson Street that I mentioned, I'd say that, we were definitely over-prepared. I think that we overcame every hill that came at us, even though we were dog-tired at the end of some of those days. One day in particular, I think it was one of our longer routes of 65 miles, and I think we were at like mile 40. I can't remember the stretch, but I know that we stopped for lunch in Lompoc, and we were going to Gaviota, I want to say. I think that's where we were going. Anywho, when we stopped for lunch in Lompoc, I was just like, I'm out of gas. I don't know what else I can do. Like, I was in the bathroom praying a little bit. I might faint, I don't know how, because we knew that we had 25 more miles to go, and 20 of them would be climbing. And we had just before lunch, we were already like getting tired, ready to get for lunch, and we just boom out of nowhere just hit this mountain. And every time that we would turn a corner, we'd think, okay, we're almost there, and it just kept going and going and going, and I was like, it was hot, it was like, the middle of the day, we were dying, and I was like, I don't know, if there's another mountain like that, I'm not gonna make it, so there was like that one time where I had a doubt in my mind that I wasn't sure if I had it in me, but it just so happened that it was a very shallow climb. So even though we were climbing forever, it was very, very shallow. It was something that didn't require a whole lot of, strength out of you, or even energy. Just something that you can just like casually spin, go at your own pace.
But just stop.
Don't stop. Yeah, I would say don't stop.
I love it. So thinking about that, what would you recommend for somebody that is inspired by this story, or may have even read the book? like what is something that you would recommend for that person, whether it's routes here in DC, routes in their area that they should be trying to tackle, or community rides. You know, I know you spoke about a few communities that were really helpful in this process.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of, so there's like I think it's bikepacking routes is a page on Instagram that they can look up, and they are actually currently trying to build like 7 different routes throughout America for people to do bikepacking tours on. So I would check them out. And then we have WTF Explorers is another big one.
Okay.
That one is for women, trans, femme, non-binary, all those type of folks. They want to, bring more diversity into cycling and into bikepacking. And so they have like a big conference that they do every year annually, and they have different what's the word? I guess like little groups around America.
Yeah.
So for instance,
like
there was
chapters.
yes.
Yeah.
So there was like someone in Baltimore and someone else who was in like New York, and they kind of like came together, and that's who I did the first little bikepacking night with on this, so I would look them up as well. And then there's adventurecycling.org, I think it is, and I think that's where I got the book. And they also had they have different routes. So there's an app that you can download, and then there are different segments of like whatever you want, whatever route that you want to buy. And they can send you maps. You can get it like kind of on your phone. So we use that to aid us as well. And thank goodness, because remember I told you that the book was a little bit outdated. So for instance, we were able to find ourselves back on course by opening this app. And it was really nothing but like a pink line with an arrow letting you know if you're going in the right direction. So if we can see that we are pretty far away from this pink line, we could bike and find our way back to being on course and just kind of follow along with that.
Yeah.
So I would tell people to go look at those 3 organizations.
I love it. So it's great to have those organizations as resources, but even thinking before you got started, right? Now you're introduced to cycling, mentorship has to be a big part of that. So can you, not necessarily take a step back, but can you tell us about how those mentors and how that community of folks showed up for you through your journey as a cyclist? And who are some of those mentors for you?
Sure. So I'd say there's a guy named Brian Clark, who's like the first bike messenger that I met out here in DC.
All right.
I actually was very inspired by him because he did a tour from Atlanta to Austin with his best friend, and they did it on track bikes doing 100 miles a day. So just, I think me knowing someone who actually did a tour is what made me say, okay, this is not something that, is out of reach.
Yeah.
So I know someone who's done it, and they're not even like super cyclist, sporty, elite, he just rides every day kind of for work, and, so that was really one of the people who kind of inspired me and kind of started me on this like really serious cycling journey. I think also Marcus Fitz, you had a talk with him a few weeks back, I saw, and he was the coach of District Triathlon, and he kind of I saw he was like strongest on bike as well. Yeah. So we would do rides together, and that was kind of getting me strong, and just linking me up with other people who were strong cyclists, and me kind of chasing them. Helped for me to get strong. So I would say Marcus Fitz definitely also helped with that. Also Ellis, he is another cyclist that I would link up with and go ride with. I have some friends who like you, and also Alice and Carl, who've become beasts over the last couple years.
I'm in that group.
You're doing 100-mile rides and then waking up and doing 50 the next day. I mean, I'd say
that's news to me. Well, cool. So thinking about as that's been a community of folks that have given you so much, right? So if we flip that around, do you see yourself as a mentor in this sport of cycling?
I would say so. I do feel that a lot of people who are getting into cycling, so because of coronavirus, and just kind of the shutdown of the city, a lot of people have turned to cycling, whether they already had a bike and have started getting out there more, or people who are looking to get a bike. So a lot of novices have reached out to me over the past few months just to ask a lot of questions just on, you know, gear and what should I get, and, you know, sending me pictures like, this is what I was thinking, where can I ride, and I would just link people up with little groups that I've seen popping up. So for instance, DC City Cycling, shout out to y'all. I've seen them kind of doing some group rides lately, and then I think DC Streets Are Calling, something like that. I'm sorry if I got the name wrong. That's another group that's starting to get more people of color out there riding in a group, and it's just a very safe, fun kind of environment. What is the one we used to do on Wednesdays? Bike party.
Oh yes, bike party.
Bike party
that was a great situation.
But these are like things that kind of, these type of environments is what kind of gets you into it. So at first it started off as like a really fun thing, and then me thinking like, you know, I could probably really do something with this. And then people just kind of encouraging that, and just meeting different people from different walks of life, and everybody, you taking something from everyone is what really kind of led me to branch off from like cycling to triathlon to bike touring to cyclocross, road racing, and just trying to see what sticks.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So as you answered the question, and sorry, if anybody has any questions in the chat, you just joined. Again, as a reminder, we always want to keep the conversation really engaging, so please feel free to ask any questions. But something I am curious about, as you mentioned the mentors, I realized that you're saying it's a list, and it's a bunch of list of dudes, all really great dudes, especially since I was included in that list. But Allison was the only woman that you mentioned, so I'm curious, like, whether in your immediate community or outside your community, who are some women cyclists that are inspiring you?
So there is a cyclocross group that I got connected with on Facebook, and also just going to the races and meeting these people. So one of their names is Anne. There's another named Jenna, Karen, and I'm trying to remember the name of this group because they were really, really helpful and really inviting, gave me so many tips. They had clinics for cyclocross that I came out to, working with Mabra, and I'll remember the name before this interview is up. But yeah, those women really, really showed up for me when it came to off-road, racing, which is something, I mean, as we know, there are not a lot of women, trans, non-binary people in cycling, or even people of color. And it's really their goal to get more people out there that represent, a collective. So, I really connected with them and didn't feel, out of place or anything like that. So yeah, I would like to shout them out as well. And when I think of their Instagram name, I will tell you guys the tags. I'll look them up.
All good. All right. Yeah, and also just make sure you check in, or if you're listening to the podcast, we'll have those show notes. And we'll make sure we highlight everybody that's being mentioned, or their community is being mentioned, but we can't figure out the name right now. So just make sure you stay tuned for those show notes. All right. So thinking about you talked about the cyclocross. So one, what is that for people that don't know? And two, how did you get involved? I guess what's your experience been like in cyclocross?
Cyclocross, I'd say, really changed my life because that was the one thing in cycling that was just like, whoa. Yeah. Because I was just super kind of starting off in that roadie, try life, and then once I got injured, I kind of, lost some of that fitness and some of that ability.
When did you get injured?
I got injured in 2017 after my third triathlon race. And I was gearing up for another one, and I injured my shoulder. I fractured the shoulder and tore my rotator cuff.
Wow.
So I was out of the pool for like 6 months. I was off the bike for 3 to 4 months. So it was a really, really hard time. But as I started to kind of get back out there, I had some friends who I would kind of see them at these cyclocross races, and they would be filming them like on Instagram, and I was like, whoa, that seems really, really cool. Like, I want to know more about that. And I learned about DCCX, which is a big cyclocross race that goes on in DC. And it was super easy to get to. It's kind of like near it's the old soldiers home, I want to say.
Okay.
And so I went to just check it out one year, and I took I had bought a bike because I had intended to kind of start racing a little bit, and I would just kind of like try to ride the course when there was like in between the races. But cyclocross is basically, I would say, kind of like a blend between road racing and mountain biking. So your bike is more road race, like a road bike, but it has thicker tires, not as big as mountain bike tires, but they are knobby so that they can help you through different types of terrain. So in cyclocross, you could be riding on grass, dirt, gravel. You could be riding over tree roots, kind of in the woods. And then they also have little barricades where you would have to lift your bike up and kind of jump over these little like hurdle type things. So they have these really, it's almost like a little, like a little course where you can just, like a little, I don't know, Tough Mudder, but like on bikes,
I love it. And I also know you do, the garage series.
Yes, garage races. How did I get introduced to that? I think it was another just like seeing it on Facebook and like, wow, that seems really awesome. Yeah. And garage races is put on by, let me think, who was that on? I remember, but if you just look it up, it's in Arlington, Virginia. You can Google that, and it's a crit inside of a parking garage. It is super awesome, but it happens in the spring, like every March. We only had one race this year before coronavirus came and kind of just, killed that. Yeah. But maybe they'll be back next year. Let's hope.
Right.
It is really cold, so definitely, bring your cool weather gear. But it was really helpful to race in there because it taught me a lot about cornering. I'm much stronger at my right turns, but my left turns, I'm still a little nervous there. I get a little stiff because I've learned that when I'm riding, and if ever I do fall, it's usually to the left. So kind of those left turns kind of like make me tense up a little bit. Yeah. So, it is in cyclocross and in those crit races that taught me a lot about bike handling. Right. And it's not just about being fast, but it's also being able to like stay up on your bike and be able to do like difficult things on your bike and not fall over. So, I would say that all those things have kind of attributed to who I am as a cyclist now.
Yeah. And I love it. So that's who you are as a cyclist now. So what do you have your eyes on next? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish as a cyclist and as an athlete?
I think I want to get into mountain biking. I've been seeing a lot of mountain biking happening on my feed, and while I don't want to be a downhill racer because I care about my face, different. That's a little bit too intense for me. As I told you, I'm afraid of heights, but I do know a couple of girls who do some mountain bike racing, and it just seems super awesome. And yes, cyclocross is really, really fun and a good blend, but it's just something about those really large tires where you just feel like you can roll over anything. Yeah. And that's just like another avenue that I want to try, because once I went off-road, it just never made the road the same. So, now I just want to try kind of something a little different and see if I can handle mountain biking.
Say more about that.
About what?
So you said it never made the road the same.
It didn't, because it's just not as it's not as fun. It's not as challenging. I really do miss the maneuvering over things. It just makes you very, very sharp.
Yeah.
Like I said, the bike handling, it just it teaches you to look out for things, and then you get on the road and you're like, this is boring. Where are the tree roots? Where's the gravel? Where's the descents? Where's the hard little punchy climbs? And having to hop off my bike and jump over a tree log, and it's just really, really extremely fun, and it just gives you a different kind of community that you're out there with. It's like anyone can ride a bike, but can you get out there and like ride over tree roots and big rocks and different stuff like that? It's just it's even more fun. It's like, wow, I just didn't even know that this was even available to me. So now it's like I really want to try that.
That's real. Like I actually as you said it, I kind of felt the way. But as you started to explain it, I like running, but I love trail running. Like if I can run on the trail all the time, that's all I would do.
It's so fun to get dirty.
Facts.
Like I don't know what it is, but it's just like I like getting dirty. Because you see a lot of those roadies out there with those crisp white shoes and socks, and you're like,
that was me.
Sorry. Exactly. But if you try one cyclocross course, you will be hooked. You're like, what is this? This is something. Oh yeah.
So what you're saying is I need a new bike to do this.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Not that I have enough bikes. If you are able to see around my room, you see we have a few, but I need one more, and plus one light. But thinking about before you leave the DMV area, what are you hoping to do? What are you having your eyes set on just here before you leave this community?
I'm really, really sad to be leaving this community. I've met so many amazing people, and biking has just exposed me to not only people but different experiences. So I'm really, really sad about that. But I always wanted to do Skyline, so I finally got a chance to do that last weekend. And was able to conquer my fear about it, because I was just thinking, this is going to be super duper hard. I don't know if I'm ready, because I just haven't really been riding like that. But it was very similar to California. The hills are not steep; they just go on for like 3 miles. But it was definitely something that was attainable, and I didn't feel like, wow, I'm just like super out of shape. Now, while I could have been faster up those hills, I felt like that was one of the major things that I wanted to do. And last year I was able to conquer something else, which was up in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Dirty Dozen. That is a extremely ridiculously hard ride. I was not able to finish it. I think they're like 13 of Pittsburgh's most steepest hills. And these are hills that are so steep that you can barely walk up it, let alone ride your bike. You have to zigzag, or else you're going to flip backwards. I've seen that happen. I saw a woman backflip. And I think we got up to like 10 hills and we're like, this is enough. I cannot do anymore. And even in those last few hills, I was like walking half of it, and just like, it takes everything out of you. So I wish I had another go at that before I left. But that is a ride that I would recommend anyone who's looking for something super duper challenging to do. But while I'm here, so Rock Creek Hill Ride is my favorite local group ride that we haven't been doing since coronavirus started, but we still know the route by heart. So just kind of getting that a few more times, just like hold it with me dearly in my heart before I leave, and I really just want to ride around the city and just take it all in, hit all my favorite places. I'm not really, at this point, there's nothing that I'm training for or anything like that. It looks like racing is pretty much canceled for the rest of the year, so I'm not really looking to kind of conquer anything new. If there were some road races, I'd definitely go out and do those, but since they're not, I think just kind of riding around the city and taking pictures of my favorite places, and maybe visiting some places that I haven't had the opportunity to go. And just riding with friends, just casually, very casual, kind of farewell type riding, versus you really kind of trying to go after a new feat. I think at this point, that's gonna wait until I get to California and I see what faces me once I get there.
All right, I love it. I love it. So we're just, as we are about to start wrapping up, again, I want to make sure I'm encouraging people to ask questions, especially during this period of rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you can just, give the first answer that comes to mind, and then we're going to wrap up.
Okay.
All right? So what's your favorite moment in athletics, really quickly?
My favorite moment in athletics? Oh, goodness.
That's a hard one for rapid fire.
Yeah, I mean, I might have to go with the tour.
The tour?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I love it. So going back to athletic mentors, who are some folks that are mentors for you?
So I'm gonna say Anna and Jenna. So I remember their names. They are team, not team.
Uh-huh.
And that was the purpose of just, we're a team, but not really a team, TNT. Right. And, they kind of linked with, pro cyclists like Libby Sheldon, who also always shows up to those garage races and kicks everybody's butt.
Yeah.
So they get together with them and Alex and put on clinics for, people who are new to cyclocross who kind of need that little push.
Yeah. I love it. So what's your favorite distance to train for?
Wow. Whatever one I think that I can accomplish.
Yeah,
honestly.
That's facts.
Yeah, I think, it's not really, like, biking is not a consideration. That's one of the things. It's like, I know I can do that part, but what am I feeling confident and ready enough to do? So
I know this isn't much of a rapid fire question, but what has athletics taught you?
It taught me to be brave. Honestly, I have so much more confidence on my bike than off of my bike, and there are so many things that I have pursued from cycling that I wish to apply to my life.
Yeah.
That off the bike, So a lot of times I think back, like, if I was doing this interview while I was on my bike, I would be so ready. I have that confidence on my bike, and it just taught me to just go after your dreams. There's nothing that's too hard for you. You just have to prepare yourself for it.
Right. So last question before we go to our kiss one, kill one, marry one. How do you define the perfect athlete?
Oh, wow. I don't think that it's all about, how strong you are, how fast you are. It's about how you, recover, the food that you eat, all your nutrition, that person who's a good team player, someone who can uplift their community and expose other people the way that they were exposed,
right.
And kind of carry that community on their back. Someone who just, really wants to see other people succeed too.
I love that. And the last one, if you had to kiss one, kill one, marry one, swim, bike, run, what would it be?
Oh, I'm killing run. I'm gonna kiss swimming and I'm gonna marry biking.
All right, I love it. So folks, I want to continue this conversation with you or just learn a bit more about you. Where can they find you?
At DMV, is it underscore Jules?
It is underscore.
I don't even know my own handle. DMV underscore Jules on Instagram.
All right, cool. And like I said, these the teams that she mentioned and everything, her contact information will be in the show notes. But before I wrap up, I definitely want to say shout out to everybody that joined them live. Shout out to everybody that is watching this on our YouTube channel. If you don't know, we have one. Also, shout out to everybody that's listening to this podcast on Apple. All the spots that you can listen to this podcast on. And then last, shout out to our partner. Shout out to Athletic Brewing Company. We still need our beers. Well, shout out to you. Shout out to Urban Athletic Club. We have our bi-weekly workouts every other weekend. So if you're here in the DMV community, again, we're not a club, but we do want to create that community. So we create a space where you can come train with us and learn some things. We actually had our bike handling clinic coming up this Sunday, so make sure you hit us up in the DM if you want to learn about that. And then last, shout out to Philly Bike Expo. But before I go on to the next thing, I wanted to make sure I wore this shirt. I know you have a lot of people that are inspiring you in all around the country, but I know that there is one particular person that inspires you. So I wanted to make sure I gave you this.
Thank you.
She signed this for you. If folks can't read it. I got this back in November. I've seen Jules a few times, and it was just, we were like always out and about, so I never could give this to her. So I wanted to make sure I gave you this.
I'm so glad you remember this, because I was going to come back from Cali to get this.
But but again, thank you again, everybody, for joining, and looking forward to connecting with you all next week. All right,
Bye.
Peace out.